Thank you so much. It's wonderful to be here at the fabulous Kino Cafe. As soon as I arrived, I used the bathroom because it's not a real Kino experience unless you're nervously taking a shit and hoping that your friends can't hear you. That was cool. I want to talk a bit about what a weird year I've been having. I know everyone's had a really weird year. It's been extra weird for me because I got sober right before the pandemic hit. So everything you've been going through, I've been going through without wine. Just want to take a moment to pause so everyone watching this at home can stop chanting hero. Yeah, it's funny. It's been a huge change for me. Like, I used to be a gay comic who only talked about their sex life, and now I'm a sober comic who only talks about recovery, which seems like it would be very different, but in a lot of ways it's similar. At the end of the show, you'll just remember me as that bummer one. I've learned a lot about myself since getting sober, some of it good, some of it bad. Some of the bad stuff, for example, I've learned that I'm just not fun to be around. I'm a fucking grump all the time. Also learned that I don't care for most of my friends. Don't have any ill will for them. I just don't care what happens to them, if I'm being totally honest. Some of the good stuff I've learned about myself. I've seen a 100% decrease in mystery scabs. That's pretty cool. I still do have a fair number of scabs, but I know where each and every one of them came from. Another thing that's been great about getting sober is I don't have diarrhea all the time anymore. That is fucking sweet. I always thought I was a person who had a really testy stomach. It turns out that all came down to draft beer and disco snow. It was just my lifestyle. That's all that was. Of course, the pendulum has sort of swung the other way now that I'm like eating and sort of living cleaner, I guess, is now I get constipated, which is a really, really weird sensation that I don't recommend to everyone. I guess it's just a part of getting older. I recently suffered through something that a lot of people go through. I had an anal fissure, which for those of you who don't know what an anal fissure is, I will explain it as gently as possible for you. An anal fissure generally occurs when, after a brief period of constipation, your bowel writes a check that your butthole cannot cash. And so you go to the bathroom and you break the bank. And it's awkward and it's painful and it's nice. It happened a while ago now, so I can laugh about it. The thing that I find really funny is how messed up my priorities were. Because at the time, it wasn't that I was worried that I might like have an infection or need stitches or even surgery. I was just really stressed out that my doctor wouldn't be able to tell that it was an exit wound, which is just internalized homophobia and bottom shaming. I mean, they're in med school for 8 years. I'm sure they learn rectal ballistics, right? They would have to. Also, just it really is internalized homophobia, because I mean, why is that less embarrassing anyways for it to be an exit wound? Like, the idea that it's less embarrassing that I ate so poorly, my body built a starch bomb and tried to kill me with it, than it would be to like admit to my doctor that I love my husband, so I grab my ankles to say so, you know? I've been trying a number of different sort of self-care treatments since the pandemic started, just to try and like ease the crushing weight of adulthood and the sort of stress of the pandemic. And I've tried everything. I've done daily affirmations and gratitude journaling and meditation, and a lot of it just feels like hokey nonsense. I can't necessarily say that I recommend it, but one treatment that I started getting that I highly recommend to everyone is Botox. Dead serious. A lot of people are ashamed to admit they get Botox. Not me. I don't give a shit. Botox is medicinal. A lot of people don't realize this. Botox can be used to treat a number of different health maladies, such as lockjaw or migraines or hyperhidrosis, or if you're like me and you're one of the millions of people who suffer from party face. Yeah, party face is very common. We all know someone in our life who has party face. Maybe you have an alcoholic auntie, or you've got like a high school friend who jumped on the meth train as a freshman and then he was a gum-toothed goblin by the time you graduated and he didn't. If you're wondering how to get party face, just remember this. If you overstay your party phase, you walk away with party face. That's the easiest way to remember it. The most famous recent case of party face has got to be Lady Lindsay of House Lohan. We all saw her wither in real time. Actually, there's an internet blogger whose nickname for Lindsay Lohan is the apricot ashtray, which might be the best nickname in the history of time. And I feel for Lindsay Lohan because I'm in the same boat she is, in that we're both party boys or girls and gingers. Gingers gotta watch out. We already age faster than bananas, so we really can't be out here fucking around with alcohol and cocaine and stuff. You know, being a ginger and doing hard drugs and alcohol is like pouring gasoline on a fire that's already pretty out of control. They say black don't crack, alabaster shatters. So don't party if you're a ginger. One thing I'm excited for the end of the pandemic is to just like be outside wearing normal clothes all the time again. I'm so fucking tired of wearing pajamas. I bought a lot of pajamas when the pandemic started, just because I was feeling kind of ashamed. Everybody on social media had all of these wicked pajamas. They had like cotton and flannel and silk. You saw some that had footies, some that had hoods, some that had a trapdoor over the butt. I actually found one pair online that had footies, a hood, and a trapdoor over the butt. So for my husband, who's a bald bottom with bad circulation, he knows what he's getting for Christmas. I've never had cool pajamas, and I think that's because I come from a nightgown family. Long line of just dudes who wear long shirts to bed. And also, like, I've been wearing the same thing since, like, for years now. I've been farting into the same pair of tattered Calvin Kleins and the Linkin Park hoodie that I lost my virginity in. That's my sleep uniform. And I'm sure some of you are like, really, dude, Linkin Park? But, like, you know, give me some credit. Obviously, my taste in music has changed since the night I lost my virginity. I mean, that was 4 years ago. So... And a lot of you are probably like, you kept a hoodie on when you had sex for the first time, but in my defense, it lasted less than a minute. And also it was very cold in that equipment shed. Another thing I've been doing to try and feel a little bit better lately is I've delved into self-help books, more specifically self-help audiobooks, because I do desperately want to feel better about myself, but not badly enough to read something. And so... audiobooks were my choice. The first one I tried was by Eckhart Tolle. He's like a very famous spiritual guru. The problem with Eckhart Tolle audiobooks is that they're read by the author. I don't know if you've ever heard this guy speak, but he sounds like Stephen Hawking with a German accent. He's 100% human, not a robot at all, but and I'm sure he has a lot of like really, you know, mind-expanding things to say, but it's just really fucking hard to relax and drink in any of his wisdom when you just feel deep down that you're maybe getting brainwashed by a cunning Nazi speak and spell. That's my problem with Eckhart Tolle. The second one I tried, the second self-help book I tried, and I put that in air quotations because it's not a self-help book, is The 5 Love Languages. I know this was really popular a few years back, and I thought like, oh, this would be a cool thing to check out. And it's basically a book that says there's one of 5 ways that people like to receive affection. And the problem with this book, it's just Christian marriage counseling is all it is. It's really not a self-help book at all. And you would never know it by looking at the cover. Like it looks like the cover of this book looks like it was peeled off a bottle of rosé. Straight up. But it looks like but it's not. It's basically a Bible dressed up as Eat, Pray, Love. And so the 5 love languages that are in this book, there's acts of service, gifts, quality time, words of affirmation, and physical touch. And so right off the bat, you shouldn't trust this book because none of the love languages are feeding. How the fuck does that work? In my opinion, there are 4 love languages. They are talking, feeding, sex, and quiet time. And they're best enjoyed in that order. The other problem with it, if you think about all of these different categories, these different love languages, they all just fall under one of those categories, which is acts of service. Those are all just acts of service gifts. If you're buying them shit they don't need, that's an act of service, right? Words of affirmation. If you're paying them a compliment that you don't actually mean, that's an act of service, right? Physical touch? Putting out when you're not in the mood is not just an act of service. It's also a great way to get a security guard to sneak you into a Linkin Park concert. All right, that's my time. You guys have been great. I'm Steev Letts. Thank you very much.